American political parties. When the Constitution was written in 1787 and ratified 2 years later, it created our system of government, which we have, of course, till today's day, with various amendments added. And what it did, among other things, was to create a division of powers, a separation of powers, executive, legislative, and judicial, calling for a stronger federal government than had existed under the previous form of government, the Articles of Confederation, and the election of our first president, George Washington. When this constitutional form of government was created and leading to the election of our first president, there were no political parties in this country, and the Constitution does not talk about political parties at all. How the first American party system developed is in fact the story of the 1790s, that is to say the presidencies of George Washington and then John Adams. Which is to say that policies of the Washington presidency would eventually lead to what is called the first American party system. I'm referring more specifically here to the economic program of Alexander Hamilton, George Washington's Secretary of the Treasury. A very potent and very important economic policy established. And the controversies surrounding that leading to political parties as we first understand them in American history. To be specific, the various elements of Hamilton's economic program, and to put it as simply as I can. First of all, the Revolutionary War debts. This fledgling country fighting for its life against England in the American Revolutionary War could not afford to pay its soldiers, could not afford to pay the farmers who provided supplies for the Revolutionary Army, and so they were often given vouchers, chits, promises to pay, IOUs, called certificates of indebtedness. After the war was over, with the American victory and the establishment of this new nation, the government was not in a position to pay off these certificates. And as the years went by, eventually various speculators went around to these farmers, to these ex-soldiers, offered to pay them a percentage of the face value of these certificates, so that eventually, paying off the original holders a fraction of the face value, they may as well take it, better than nothing, these speculators came to control most of these Revolutionary War certificates of indebtedness. At which point Hamilton announces that the federal government will pay off the current holders at full face value. This created an outrage in Congress of opponents to this policy as to the unfairness of it. Those soldiers, those farmers who had sacrificed in the American Revolutionary War, to end up getting nothing for their efforts and their risks, all going to these speculators who bought up these certificates. Washington supports Hamilton, and it goes through. Another source of controversy, the assumption of the state debts. Some states, when they had more control over their own finances with a weak federal government under the Articles of Confederation, handled their finances well, were in the black. Other states did not handle them so well, they were in the red, they were in debt. The Washington administration, under Hamilton's program, would take over the responsibility of those state debts. Those states that had managed well would have to help pay for those states who did not. This engendered opposition in Congress as well. Thirdly, Hamilton sought to create what would be called the first United States Bank, a kind of quasi-public and government private institution, which leads to a bitter argument of constitutional premises. Thomas Jefferson arguing that the Constitution does not explicitly allow the government to create such a bank. Strict interpretation of the Constitution. Hamilton.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?